Hello and welcome to another successful garden design show. In this episode, I'm going to show you two top money saving tips. One on how to get almost free plants from the garden centre, and another one on how to save money with your vegetables. Now summer is gradually creeping closer, as you can tell by these beautiful allium purple sensations that are just beginning to come into flower. So I'm going to give you a quick guided tour of what else is blooming in my garden. And here's a quick recap if you're new here. This was the garden that I inherited when I moved here, and this is what I did with it. It's a Rachel budget special. I basically utilised the existing materials because I'm not sure how long I'm going to be in this property and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it, and future residents are probably going to need a reasonable amount of lawn. So there we go, cheap and cheerful, and for a budget special I'm quite happy with how it's turned out. And here's some of the flowers from last year. And also, it's not just a flower garden, it's pretty productive with fruit as well. There's a plum tree, a greengage, 2 apple trees, a mulberry tree, and a grapevine. And there's also my 3-tiered planter where I grow lots of potatoes and strawberries and lettuce and herbs and peas and even cabbages. So I do pretty well from my small garden. So here's how it's looking now on Earth Day. This was recorded on the 22nd of April. Apple blossom is absolutely stunning this year. So let's hope we've got lots of lovely apples. And so scented. Beautiful. Here's another apple tree. So thankfully, not any frost, so it should, with a bit of luck, it should set. Now, as we're only in April, the most eye-catching flower in the garden at the moment is the Euphorbia wolfeni, those glorious lime flowers, and they will be the perfect backdrop for the blue camasias that are just starting to come up now. So I planted various groups of those around the garden, and they are going to be lovely against the euphorbia, but also it's a lovely contrast for the allium purple sensation, and I have these everywhere. They're repeat planted all over the garden and they're just beginning to come out now, but they're going to be sort of tennis ball size by the time they fully open out. And the flowers, they last about a month or so, maybe slightly longer, but they really are stunning once they get going. And then they're replaced by the foxgloves, the purple foxgloves. So that purple and limey green is a constant throughout, because euphorbia flowers last a really long time, because actually the flower itself is quite tiny. These outer edges are the bracts, so they stay in place for a good number of months, and actually it's already been flowering probably nearly a month as it is. And I've got some purple asparagus growing through it as well. And just along from the euphorbia is a prostrate rosemary bush that's been again flowering probably for a month now, so it's doing really well. But the star of the show is definitely going to be the allium purple sensations. So another week or so and they will be looking really good indeed. And before these flowered, the plum trees were looking really rather good, and now they've been surpassed by the apple trees. And then for later on in the year, behind the euphorbia, we've got the hydrangea, which will hopefully get much bigger this year. And I'm trying to cover the fence with an ivy behind that. And I've got various roses that I'm training. There's going to be 3 trained up against the fence. So hopefully that ugly fence will more or less disappear this year. We've got Rosa Gertrude Jekyll, and I forget what the pink one next to it's doing, but that is really taking off, and that's only been in a year. So hopefully that fence should be just a wall of pink flowers. And the wisteria is doing reasonably well. It's just gone over, it's just the flowers are just fading, and that's only been in a year, and that's growing really well. So yeah, once those ugly fences have gone, I'll be much happier, but the planting's only 2 years old, so already it's doing really well. And again, on the other side, there's also climbing roses, so there's two on that side, so the whole garden should be very flowerful in time. So let's get on with our money saving tips. So I've just bought these 4 digitalis, the purple foxgloves, to help fill the gaps that I've got from last year's. So 4 is, you normally plant in groups of 3. So you might just think, okay, we've got 4 plants there, but there's a cunning trick that if you look carefully, you can actually increase the numbers. So if we have a look at this one, you can see there's a second plant with that one, and this one as well. So if I'm very, very careful with how I divide these, I should, with a bit of luck, be able to separate them off, and then that's going to give me 6 plants, and I can plant them in 2 groups of 3. So let's see if I can do that without completely wrecking it. Right, so let's have a look-see here. Just check they're not actually. So very, very gently, just pulling that one away. Yes, there we go. 2 plants. Ah, this one looks like it might be 2 separate plants. Very gently, yes, there we go. Wonderful. Might even do 3, but I'm not going to risk that. We'll just be happy we've got an extra 2 plants. Right, let's go and plant them. So these are the 2 that had seeded from last year, but ideally we want a group of 3. Now, although there isn't room to plant any more here, we could get one in over here, I think. Unfortunately, I've left my trowel at the allotment, so I'll have to try and get it in. There's some space in the bark. Now, we'll let go in there. I'll water that in a moment. Chip around. Hey presto. I think we've got some room over there as well. I better split this one as well, now that I look at it. Oh yes, there we go. Fabulous. So that's now 3. So that was 7 plants for £10. That's not bad, is it? Right, on with our next couple of money saving tips. Oldest trick in the book for saving money on garden plants is, of course, sowing them from seed. Yes, it takes a little bit more effort, but it's well worth it. You'll save an absolute fortune on buying them from the garden centre. So a few pounds on seeds, and it will save you a small fortune, not to mention you popular with all your friends and family when you give them your spares. But here's the real tip. If you buy heirloom seeds, that's real seeds, they allow you to save the seed for the following year. So avoid the hybridized seeds, the F1 hybrids, etc., and go for heirloom. Now, I buy mine from realseeds.co.uk, but there are plenty of other places if you search for them. And another advantage to saving your own seeds is those plants will adapt to your conditions. So if it's a little bit dry or whatever conditions you've got, they will make sure that the next generation copes with it better. So it's well worth getting heirloom seeds and saving your own. So here are my seedlings for the allotment. I've been hardening them off a little bit each day, and hopefully I'll be able to plant maybe a third of them this weekend. So when we say hardening off, we're not just talking about colder temperatures, we're also talking about sunlight, because a lot of them, well, they were all actually, I don't know if you can see it, but they were started inside in my seed starting grow tent. And that's heated and it's artificial light. So of course they're not
used to strong sunlight. So I get them out to begin with for just an hour each day and then gradually increase it. And now they're out all day and then they come in at night. Some of them go in the polytunnel and they're going to be the ones that get planted out first. So the tomatoes and the squashes and the cucumbers and the corn, I've probably done them a little bit too early. So I was surprised at just how quickly everything grew. So they probably can't go out until, well, maybe the corn beginning of May, but the squashes probably middle. So I'm just going to have to hope that and the courgettes and everything can keep going, and that the tomatoes will also be okay. So yes, a little bit premature, but never mind. Because I can only do them in batches in the grow tent, I do kind of have to get ahead of the game. So that's why they've been planted probably a little bit earlier than I would if I got more space. But next year I'm going to have more growing room, as I'm going to have greenhouses. So that should help spread things out and I can do everything at once, but later on in the season. So yes, the daily routine of everybody out and then everybody back in again, I won't miss that. So I'm looking forward to planting as many of these as possible. So yes, here's my indoor setup. And as you can see, the lights aren't that great, which is why I have it with the doors open all the time so that it gets enough natural light in as well. And then the bottom one's got the heat mat there. That's the next lot coming. So yeah, it is getting a bit much having all of these seeds brought in at night, but not for much longer.
And it's not just vegetables I'm growing from seed. You may remember a couple of years ago I grew these acanthus and they turned out to be absolutely stunning, and I'm growing a lot of flowers this year as well. And final bonus tip is to get making your own compost, because when there are shortages, there's a very predictable route. First, people clear out the supermarkets and then they suddenly panic and realise they need to be growing their own food, and suddenly all the plastic pots go, all the compost goes, and things get wiped out. And then there's always those people that really have left it far too late and then they haven't got anything. So I think we all need to be making compost, as the Ice Age farmer mentioned the other day in his video on his unshadowed Substack, that we should be making compost and growing plants for others to help them on their journey. And as the Ice Age farmer points out, that is the only way we get through this, folks. It's community. And so few people are really seeing what's coming because of normalcy bias. People are used to having food and supplies and everything they need. So I'm growing 25% extra this year, which I'm going to donate to. We have a community kitchen, food kitchen, where shops put whatever leftovers they've got that night. Rather than chuck it out, they put it in the community kitchen and people go and help themselves. So I'm going to be adding fresh vegetables, and I'm sure others on the allotments will do the same. Yeah, I'm going to be asking neighbours for their kitchen scraps and grass cuttings, and I'm going to be making a lot more compost. And also I'm stocking up, as I said, on plastic things, because anything made from plastic is going to go up massively. And although I don't need pots for seeds, one thing I do need more of is seed trays, especially because I do a double system where the tray at the very bottom doesn't have any holes, so I put the water in there and then the other tray with the drainage holes sits on top, and that way you stop your seeds from getting rot because you're doing bottom watering, and it works a treat. So yeah, although I use, as you can see here, soil blocks, I do still need the plastic trays, and I'm thinking about fleecing for winter protection and plastic for the polythene tunnel. Anything plastic I'm stocking up on, because I know there could be shortages, and even if there aren't shortages, the prices of all these things is going to skyrocket. So for me, it's a very good investment to think ahead. We've got several months before this really gets noticeable with skyrocketing prices. So community is key. It's not about I'm all right, Jack, and not worrying about others. And if we all do what we can, then it makes life just so much easier all around. So you can get a discounted composter if you're in the UK. Often as not, councils have struck a deal with getcomposting.com, and you can usually get them at a considerable discount. Now, in the next episode, I'm going to show you the progress I've made at my allotment. I've done a complete overhaul of it this year in a bid to make it as food productive as possible, because with these increased fuel costs and fertiliser shortages, there's going to be a massive impact on the price of food. So I'm really putting all my efforts at the moment into making sure my allotment and garden are as vegetable productive as possible. So I'll show you that. So I've also been working on creating additional content for the Food Garden Formula, which is a free course with all my garden design courses. But because I think food growing is going to be so vital, I'm increasing the contents of the course so that it's a standalone course, and it will show you how to create an attractive food producing garden, both from scratch and how to transform your existing garden so that you can grow food and still have your garden look attractive and not like an allotment. So if you'd like to get the Food Garden Formula, as I say, it's free with any of the garden design courses, which are in a half price sale until the 26th of April. There is a link below this video. But if you'd like the Food Garden Formula on its own, you can also do that. And while I'm adding the additional content, that also is half price. But as soon as I've finished adding the bulk of the additional content, then the price will double. So I hope you too have got some glorious weather and that you've enjoyed this episode. So until next time, take good care.